Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone, reading his last message, trying to decode what he really meant? Or maybe you've walked away from a conversation with him thinking, did he just flirt with me, or am I imagining things? Here's the truth. Men aren't always the best at expressing their feelings. Not because they don't have them. Trust me, they do. But because for a lot of guys, vulnerability feels like unfamiliar territory. It's not that they don't feel deeply, it's that they're often scared of what those feelings mean, both for themselves and for you. But here's where it gets interesting. Feelings have a funny way of leaking out in behavior. So even if he's trying to play it cool, there are certain things he does that give away what he's really feeling. Let me say this right up front. If a man has genuine feelings for you, it will show. Not always in poetic declarations or grand gestures, but in the subtle, everyday ways he acts when he thinks you're not paying close attention. The guy who's trying to keep his emotions under wraps doesn't realize that his behavior is actually writing a love letter you just have to learn how to read. The first behavior that gives him away is how he remembers the little things. You might think he's being casually polite when he brings up that you mentioned loving a specific band or how you take your coffee, but this is deeper than surface-level courtesy. When a man is emotionally invested, he starts keeping a mental record of what matters to you. He'll reference that movie you said you wanted to watch, or ask how your presentation at work went, even though you only mentioned it once in passing. He's not just trying to impress you. He's tuned in. He's listening with intention. That's emotional investment. That's feelings trying to stay undercover, but completely failing because they're coming out through his attention to detail. Another dead giveaway. He finds excuses to be near you. He'll show up to events he wouldn't normally care about if he knows you'll be there. He suddenly takes an interest in the things you're into. You mention a book you're reading, and 2 days later he's asking if you finished it. Maybe he's even reading it too. He might even downplay it. Oh, I was just in the area, or I figured I'd check it out. But don't let that fool you. If he's constantly orbiting your world, there's a reason, and that reason is you. A man who's emotionally detached doesn't bother going out of his way, but one who's catching feelings, he'll look for reasons to cross paths with you, without making it too obvious, of course. Now, here's a subtle one that many women overlook. He mirrors your energy. This goes beyond matching your words or tone. It's about emotional syncing. If you're excited, he lights up. If you're frustrated, he shifts into problem-solving mode. If you're quiet, he gets a little quieter too. It's not mimicry, it's alignment. When someone's emotionally connected, they begin to subconsciously adapt to the rhythm of the other person. So if you notice that he's always matching your mood, responding to your emotional cues almost instinctively, it's not random. It's resonance. He's emotionally in tune with you, even if he's not saying it outright. Let's talk about body language for a moment, because the body speaks volumes when the mouth is silent. Watch how he looks at you when he thinks you're not looking. There's a softness in the eyes, a longer glance, maybe even a half-smile that he quickly hides. A man in control of his words might still betray himself with his gaze. It lingers, it searches, it holds. If you've ever caught him looking at you in a way that made your breath hitch for a second, and then he quickly looked away like he got caught, yeah, that wasn't just a moment. That was him getting caught in the act of feeling something deeper. Another behavior that reveals his hand, he becomes protective of you, not in a controlling, overbearing way, but in small gestures that show he cares about your well-being. He checks if you got home safely. He offers his jacket when you're cold. He stands closer when you're in a crowded space. These aren't just polite acts. They're instinctual when a man is emotionally connected. His concern for your comfort and safety isn't something he's performing for attention. It comes naturally because your happiness has started to matter to him more than he's ready to admit. Now, you might notice him getting a little awkward around you. Maybe he's usually confident and smooth with everyone else, but with you, he fumbles a bit, searches for the right words, laughs at the wrong time, maybe even avoids eye contact when the moment feels too intense. That awkwardness is a tell. When a guy is emotionally unaffected, he's relaxed and composed. But when feelings enter the picture, he becomes self-conscious. He's worried about how he's coming across. He doesn't want to mess up because your opinion of him suddenly matters a whole lot more. That nervous energy, that's his heart working overtime to keep its cool. Here's something a little unexpected but incredibly telling. He gets a bit jealous even when he tries to hide it. He hears you mention another guy or sees you talking to someone else, and suddenly his mood shifts. Maybe he doesn't say anything outright, but you notice the change, a shorter reply, a distant tone. He might mask it with humor or sarcasm, but underneath there's a storm brewing, that quiet tension, that's his emotional investment showing up in disguise. Jealousy isn't always loud. It can be subtle, even silent, but it's a sure sign that he's starting to see you as more than just a friend or casual connection. One more thing to pay attention to. He supports your dreams, even the ones that intimidate him. If you talk about a big goal, a career move, or something you're passionate about, and he doesn't try to talk you down or minimize it, that's a big deal. He might even get a little nervous about what it means, like if your success will change the dynamic, but he'll still cheer you on. A man who has feelings doesn't want to limit you. He wants to see you win. Even if part of him is scared he'll lose his place in your life, that kind of support isn't casual. It's rooted in admiration and care. And it's a strong indicator that his feelings run deeper than he's willing to let on. The beautiful, and sometimes maddening, thing about human behavior is that we can try to guard our emotions. We can even convince ourselves we're being subtle, but feelings always find a way to leak through. And while words can lie, behaviors rarely do. So the next time you're left wondering whether he feels something more, don't just focus on what he's saying. Watch how he acts, how he shows up, how he leans in. His behavior is the blueprint, and it will reveal more than he ever dares to speak aloud. Now, let me say this. Understanding these signs isn't about playing detective in every interaction. It's about recognizing when someone's actions are speaking louder than their words. If you're constantly having to guess and justify and make excuses for how someone treats you, that's not hidden affection, that's inconsistency. But if you start to notice a pattern, if these behaviors keep showing up, even when he's trying to keep things casual, then it's safe to say something real is brewing under the surface. He may not be ready to say it out loud yet. He might be waiting for the right moment or trying to figure out how to express what he feels without risking rejection. But his actions, they've already started telling the story, and once you know how to read it, you'll never be left guessing again. And here's where most people go wrong. They expect that if someone has deep feelings, they'll come out with a full-blown confession. But what they don't realize is that for many men, especially those who aren't comfortable with emotional vulnerability, the feelings come out sideways. Not directly, not cleanly, they seep through in their priorities, in how often they think about you, and in what they're willing to do to make sure you feel valued, even if they're pretending it's just a casual thing. Let's talk about consistency. One of the most underrated signs that a man has feelings for you is how consistent he is in your life. When someone is unsure or just playing games, their presence feels like a roller coaster. You're either up in the clouds or wondering if they even remember you exist. But a man who's emotionally invested will find ways to maintain a presence, even in small ways. Maybe he sends a good morning text more often than not. Maybe he always checks in after your big day at work. He doesn't disappear for days without explanation. He keeps showing up. That kind of steady rhythm says something. It says, You matter enough for me to prioritize. And that isn't something guys do when they're emotionally detached. Another behavior that screams he's catching feelings. He starts opening up to you in ways he doesn't with others. Now, I don't mean trauma, dumping or sharing his entire life story on the second date. I mean he lets his guard down. He tells you about that time he failed and how it still bothers him. He talks about his fears for the future. He shares stories that reveal who he really is, not just who he wants people to see. This kind of emotional exposure is rare for many men because it feels risky, but when he does it with you, it's because on some level he trusts you, and more than that, he wants you to really see him. Not just the image he projects, but the man underneath it all. That level of vulnerability doesn't happen by accident. It's an emotional breadcrumb he drops, hoping you'll pick it up. He may also start defending you, even when you're not around. You'd be surprised how many women have no idea that the man they think is just a friend has stepped in to defend their name in a room she'll never walk into. Maybe someone made a dismissive comment and he corrected them. Maybe someone questioned your judgment and he stood up for you. When a man feels something for you, your dignity becomes a part of his responsibility, at least in his eyes. He wants people to respect you because he respects you. And even if he hasn't told you how he feels, the way he backs you when no one's looking reveals more than any romantic speech ever could. And then there's the shift in how he talks about the future. You'll notice him saying things like, "We should go there one day," or "next time we do this." It may sound casual, but what he's doing is psychologically nesting. He's placing you into his future without making a big deal of it, without even thinking it through too much. It just comes out naturally. Because in his mind, even if he hasn't admitted it to himself fully, he sees you there, and people don't mentally include others in their future unless they have strong, anchored feelings. He also pays attention to the people you care about. You mention a best friend, and he remembers her name. You talk about your family, and he asks follow-up questions later. This isn't just him being polite. It's his way of getting closer to you, understanding you better by seeing what your world looks like through your relationships. When a man is falling for you, it's not enough to know who you are in isolation. He wants to know the people who have shaped you, the context of your life. So if he's paying attention to those details and actively showing care toward the people you love, it's not just a social skill. It's emotional alignment. He's trying to step into your world with care and curiosity. He may also become a little more self-conscious around you in ways that surprise even him. You might notice he suddenly puts more thought into his appearance when he knows he's going to see you. Or maybe he seems slightly more aware of how he speaks, like he's trying not to say the wrong thing. This isn't about him trying to be fake, it's actually the opposite. He wants to be seen as his best self by you because your opinion carries weight now. When someone starts adjusting their behavior not out of fear, but because they genuinely want to show up well for you, it means their heart is already involved. They might pretend it's not a big deal, but deep down it is. There's also this interesting paradox that happens when a guy is developing feelings but hasn't said anything yet. He starts to both seek you out and pull back at the same time. You'll notice moments of deep connection where he's fully present, fully engaged, maybe even flirting a bit more boldly. And then suddenly, he creates a little distance. He gets quieter, or you don't hear from him for a day or two. It's confusing, but it makes sense when you understand the internal conflict. On one hand, he wants to be close. On the other, he's scared of what that closeness might lead to: rejection, vulnerability, commitment. So he dances back and forth, pulled by emotion but held back by fear. That tension, that's not indifference. It's a sign he's emotionally overwhelmed and doesn't know what to do with it. He also starts showing a genuine curiosity about your mind. He doesn't just ask, "How was your day?" He digs deeper. What made it good? What challenged you today? What do you think about this idea? That curiosity isn't random. It's a man trying to understand the way your mind works because he's fascinated. And let's be honest, men don't spend emotional energy trying to uncover your thoughts unless they feel something. That hunger to understand, to get beneath the surface, is rooted in affection. And if he's really feeling something, he'll go out of his way to help you, even when it's inconvenient. It could be as simple as picking something up for you when you're too busy to do it yourself, or helping you through a stressful time without being asked. And he won't always make a big deal of it. He might even downplay it, say no worries, or it was nothing. But trust me, it wasn't nothing. For a guy who's hiding his feelings, doing something practical is one of the safest ways to express affection. It doesn't require a confession. It's just, I did this for you because I care, without ever needing to say the words. Another behavior that catches women off guard is how he reacts when you're hurting. If you're upset, disappointed, or going through something, a man who's emotionally invested won't be indifferent. He might not always know the perfect thing to say, but he'll be there. He'll check in. He'll try to make you laugh. He'll sit in the discomfort with you instead of running from it. Because your pain affects him now. He feels it. And even if he's not sure how to fix it, he's showing you something powerful. He's emotionally available to your experience. You may also find that he starts becoming more thoughtful in how he communicates. Even if he's someone who usually sends one-word texts with you, he tries a little harder. He uses emojis, sends longer messages, responds faster than usual. Or maybe he remembers to follow up on something you mentioned days ago. That shift in communication effort, it's subtle but meaningful. It shows that he's thinking about you even when you're not around, and that he wants you to know it. There's also a unique kind of silence that happens when a man has feelings and isn't ready to speak them. It's not cold or distant. It's heavy with the weight of everything he wants to say but doesn't know how. You'll feel it when you're sitting next to him and the conversation pauses, but the energy is thick, intense, meaningful. He might glance at you, open his mouth like he's about to speak, then change the subject. That hesitation, that's emotion caught between the heart and the tongue. It's not indifference, it's restraint. He might also start comparing other women to you in subtle ways. You'll hear him mention how you're different, how you get it, when others don't. He might compliment you in ways that set you apart, your mindset, your humor, your confidence. And though he may never say it directly, what he's really saying is, you're the standard now. He's mentally setting you apart from the rest, and that kind of emotional differentiation is a huge indicator of deeper feelings. Sometimes he'll even test the waters emotionally without realizing it. He might tease you, flirt a little more, bring up hypothetical scenarios to see how you react, like asking, would you ever date a guy like me? Or what do you think about guys who? These aren't random questions. They're little emotional probes. He's trying to gauge where you stand, how safe it is to take the next step. It's his way of expressing interest without exposing himself to the full risk of rejection. And maybe the most powerful signal of all, he changes, not in a forced or dramatic way, but you begin to notice he's evolving, he's more reflective. He starts addressing behaviors he knows could get in the way of something meaningful. He makes small shifts that align him more with what he knows you value, and it's not because you asked him to change. It's because loving you, even secretly, is already inspiring him to be better. When a man's behavior starts shifting in the direction of growth, when he starts showing up in a way that reflects your influence, that's love sneaking in through the back door. And perhaps one of the most confusing parts of it all is that even with all these signs, his subtle shifts, his increased presence, the unspoken energy, he still might act like nothing's changed. He'll keep joking with you the same way. He'll avoid serious talks, change the subject if you get too close to naming what's going on between you. That's not because he doesn't feel anything. It's because naming it would make it real, and for many men, once feelings become real, they also become vulnerable. They're no longer something he can manage or compartmentalize. They take over, and that's terrifying to someone who's spent their life learning that emotions are something to contain rather than express. He may even act like he's dating someone else or keep conversations vague when it comes to who he's seeing, not to hurt you or play games, but because he's afraid to admit he's more emotionally invested in you than he intended. So he hides behind ambiguity. He flirts with the idea of being unavailable just enough to give himself space to breathe. But look closer and you'll see the cracks in that armor, the way he suddenly changes the subject when you talk about another guy, the way his energy shifts when he feels like you're slipping away. The mask may still be on, but underneath, the feelings are loud and anxious and very, very real. Sometimes, his affection shows up as frustration. That may sound strange, but it's true. When a man is emotionally involved and doesn't feel like he has the space or the words to express it, it comes out in short tempers or passive-aggressive comments. He might seem irritated by things that wouldn't normally bother him or become dismissive when you talk about your weekend plans without him. It's not because he's mad at you. It's because he feels out of control. He's trying to protect himself from caring too much, from leaning in too far, from falling in too deep. But feelings don't respond to logic, so they push their way out, even if they arrive as tension or confusion. And then there are those moments that feel like slips, when he says something he didn't mean to say. Maybe it's a line that sounds suspiciously close to "I miss you," or a compliment that feels unusually specific and heartfelt. Maybe it's a text he sends late at night that's more vulnerable than usual, followed by a follow-up message the next morning that tries to dial it back. These aren't just moments of weakness. They're glimpses of the truth. Emotional truths don't stay hidden forever. They burst through the cracks in conversation, in glances, in those accidental phrases that reveal a little more than he intended. And if you catch one of those moments, don't dismiss it. That's him, unguarded. That's the part of him that loves you enough to risk being seen, even if only for a second. You'll also notice that he doesn't just react to what you do. He anticipates it. He picks up on your patterns, knows when you're about to cancel plans before you say it, senses when you're overwhelmed before you even name it. That kind of intuitive attunement doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from paying close attention, and you don't pay close attention to someone unless they matter to you on a deep emotional level. When a man starts to read you without words, when he can finish your sentences or sense your mood shift without explanation, that's a bond forming whether he's acknowledged it or not. He might also begin showing subtle signs of anxiety around you, not just nervousness, but a kind of pressure he puts on himself. You'll see it when he guesses something he said, or tries a little too hard to get your approval. He may play it cool on the surface, but underneath, he's worried that he's not good enough, or that you'll lose interest if he doesn't show up perfectly. This pressure is rooted in care, in emotion, in a deep desire to mean something to you. A man who's emotionally detached doesn't carry that weight, but the one who does, he feels it in his gut every time you're near, and you'll see him trying to figure you out, your reactions, your preferences, your emotional temperature. It's subtle, but it's there. He might test the waters by mentioning something vulnerable, then watch how you respond. Or he'll bring up a controversial opinion to see if it aligns with yours. It's not manipulation. It's curiosity paired with emotional caution. He wants to connect but fears being misunderstood, so he probes gently, carefully, until he feels safe. The more he does this, the more emotionally invested he is. because understanding you becomes a goal in itself, not just a means to an end. He may also become more generous, but not in grand gestures, in small, consistent ways. He'll share things with you he doesn't share with others: his time, his favorite spots, his playlists, his thoughts. His inside jokes. When a man gives of himself without being asked, it's not about impressing you, it's about connecting with you. He's offering pieces of his inner world, hoping you'll not just take them, but hold them with care. That generosity is emotional, it's intimate, and it means more than any fancy dinner or bouquet of flowers ever could. He also starts to crave emotional exclusivity. Even if you're not officially together, you might sense that he becomes uncomfortable when you're emotionally open with others. It's not always logical, it's not always fair, but it's real. He wants to be your go-to person. He wants to be the one who makes you laugh when you're down, who hears your fears, who knows what you're really feeling when you say, "I'm fine." And when someone else steps into that space, it stings. He may not say it, but his silence or subtle withdrawal tells you everything you need to know. He wants that place in your life. He just doesn't know how to ask for it yet. Then there's the sudden bursts of courage. He might spend days playing it cool, but then, out of nowhere, he'll say something honest and raw. Something like, "You really do mean a lot to me," or "I always feel better after talking to you." And then he'll retreat like he's afraid he went too far. These moments don't come out of nowhere. They come from a buildup of emotion that he can't contain anymore. So it leaks out in these vulnerable flashes before he puts the walls back up. These are the moments that matter. They're emotional breadcrumbs leading you to the truth. He may also begin to reprioritize his life around you without even realizing it. You'll notice that he starts making decisions with your preferences in mind. He turns down plans because he knows it means he'll miss time with you. He adjusts his schedule or suddenly takes an interest in things he used to ignore because they matter to you. That realignment of priorities isn't about control or compromise. It's about emotional gravity. You've become a central part of his inner world, and his actions begin to reflect that even when his words don't. And if he ever sees you upset, that's when his feelings come rushing to the surface. There's something about seeing you in pain that unearths every emotion he's been trying to bury. You'll see it in the way he drops everything to be there, in the way his tone softens and his attention sharpens. He doesn't want to fix you, he wants to support you. That instinct, that urgency, that emotional presence, it doesn't come from friendship alone. It comes from the ache of someone who feels deeply, maybe even loves deeply, but hasn't yet found the words to say so. Eventually, all these behaviors form a pattern. And that pattern, whether he admits it or not, is his heart talking. The truth is, most men don't hide their feelings as well as they think they do. Their emotions seep through their routines, their glances, their silences, their subtle changes. And if you know how to read between the lines, not just the verbal ones, but the emotional ones, you'll see the story his heart is writing, even if his lips are staying silent. That story is real. That story is alive. And it's waiting for the courage to be told. And even when he's trying his hardest to stay detached, when he's keeping the conversation light or pretending like your presence doesn't rattle him, there will be these fleeting moments when his guard slips. The way his eyes linger on you just a little longer than they should. The way he leans in slightly when you talk, even if the subject is mundane. The way he pauses when you laugh, like he wants to bottle that sound and keep it somewhere safe. These are not rehearsed moves, these are instincts. They're emotional muscle memory responding to someone who has begun to matter more than he can admit to himself. It's in the little sacrifices too, the things he does that don't seem like a big deal, but they are. Like going out of his way to pick up something you mentioned in passing. like rearranging his schedule so he can walk with you to your car or sit with you during a rough moment, and the way he brushes it off afterward, saying it was nothing, is just another layer of the emotional disguise. Because to him, doing something for you doesn't feel like an inconvenience. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. That, in itself, reveals a truth. When a man starts valuing your comfort above his own convenience, his heart is already in the game. And then there are the accidental admissions. Those moments where his emotions bubble to the surface in ways he didn't plan. Like when he gets unusually jealous when someone else captures your attention, and he tries to mask it with humor, sarcasm, or disinterest. But you can feel the shift. You can see the flicker in his eyes, the tightness in his jaw. That's not nothing. That's the sound of emotional investment clashing with emotional restraint. Or when he says something in passing like, "I don't want to lose you," followed by a quick subject change. He may laugh it off or act like it didn't matter, but make no mistake, he meant it. He just didn't plan to say it out loud. He may also find himself becoming protective of you, not in an overbearing or possessive way, but in subtle gestures. When someone disrespects you in conversation, he steps in. When you're walking through a crowded place, he instinctively positions himself between you and the chaos. He offers his jacket before you even say you're cold. He checks in when he knows you're going through something, even if you've said you're fine. That protectiveness doesn't come from obligation. It comes from care, and it's often the part of a man's feelings he doesn't even realize is showing. But it is. What's fascinating is how many men don't even realize they're falling until someone points it out to them, because it's not always a thunderbolt. It's often a quiet, steady build-up. One day, he's enjoying your company. The next, he's thinking about you when you're not there. He finds himself bringing you up in conversations with others without realizing it. He notices songs remind him of you. He starts rethinking decisions, whether it's about a job, a move, or a weekend plan, because now you're part of the equation, and even if he hasn't said a word to you about how he feels, his life is already adjusting around the gravitational pull of his emotions. He'll also start holding back with other women, not because you've asked him to, not because you've made any demands, but because emotionally he's already spoken for. You'll see it in how he stops entertaining flirty conversations that once felt harmless, or how he becomes disinterested in pursuing other options, even if he hasn't said he's only seeing you. His emotional loyalty shifts quietly and powerfully. It's not a decision made with logic. It's a reflection of where his heart already is. And that withdrawal from other romantic distractions is one of the clearest signs that he's more emotionally involved than he's letting on. And when you talk about your dreams, your fears, your goals, he doesn't just listen, he remembers. He brings them up later. He checks in on them. He sends you articles or resources that align with what you care about. That kind of attentiveness is emotional. It means he's invested not just in your present self, but in your future. And when a man starts investing in your future, when he shows he's not just listening to your words, but rooting for your growth, that's a man who feels deeply. Even if he hasn't found the courage to say it, he's already acting on it. He also becomes more emotionally affected by your praise and your criticism. If you compliment him, you'll notice how much it lights him up, even if he tries to act nonchalant. And if you express disappointment, even gently, it hits harder than it should. That emotional sensitivity isn't weakness, it's connection. It's because your opinion now matters more than most. It's because being seen by you, being respected by you, being appreciated by you has become emotionally significant to him. And when you occupy that kind of space in someone's heart, their emotional world starts to orbit around what you think and how you feel. Then there's the silence, not the kind that comes from distance, but the kind that comes from depth. You'll notice that he can sit in quiet moments with you without feeling the need to fill the space. That kind of silence is sacred, it's comfortable, it means the connection has moved beyond surface-level interaction. It's a signal that he feels emotionally safe with you, and when a man feels emotionally safe, he starts relaxing into a kind of openness that words can't always capture. It's the kind of stillness that exists between two people who feel seen and understood without having to explain every detail. At times, you may catch him looking at you differently. There's a softness in his expression, a quiet admiration that doesn't require words. It's like he's memorizing you in that moment, not just your face, but the feeling of being around you. That look, that's not just attraction, that's emotional presence. That's someone who's quietly amazed by you and possibly overwhelmed by how much he's starting to care. He may never acknowledge that look exists, but you'll feel it. And once you see it, you won't forget it. He may also start showing you a different side of him, the playful side, the dorky side, the parts that are usually hidden behind coolness or control. When he lets go of that polished exterior and lets you see the messy, weird, or goofy parts of his personality, that's intimacy, that's trust, that's emotion. Because what he's saying, even without saying it, is here's the real me. Do you still like me now? And that risk, that willingness to be real with you, is one of the boldest signs of hidden affection. You'll find that he starts being more honest with himself too. When a man begins feeling something deep, it doesn't just shift how he interacts with you, it shifts how he views the world. He starts evaluating what he really wants, what he's been avoiding, what kind of man he wants to be. You might notice him talking more about his values, about change, about purpose. You might see him making new decisions, ones that align better with the life he wants to live, and often with the kind of life he envisions with you. That inner transformation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because something or someone has stirred his heart. Sometimes he'll even begin to echo your language. The phrases you say often start showing up in his vocabulary. He adopts your tone when joking, mirrors your gestures. This isn't imitation. It's alignment. It's emotional resonance. It's the unconscious way we adapt to people we feel close to. So when a man starts reflecting parts of you in his daily language or behavior, it's a quiet confession. You've impacted me more than I planned. And perhaps most telling of all, he starts resisting the idea of losing you. He might not say it out loud. He might act like everything is casual, but you'll feel it in how he reacts to the idea of distance, emotional or physical. He may suddenly try harder when you start pulling back. He may get more affectionate, more attentive, more serious when he feels like there's a risk of losing what you have. That sudden urgency, that shift in energy, it's his feelings finally catching up to him. It's his emotional truth rising to the surface because the thought of you slipping through his fingers has become unbearable. Every man is different. Some will be more verbal, more overt in how they show affection. Others will hide it beneath layers of charm, humor, or stoic distance. But no matter how it shows up, whether in his silence, his service, his attention, his tension, emotion always leaves a trail. And if you follow that trail with honesty, with openness, and with the courage to trust what you feel, you'll see what he's been trying so hard to keep hidden. Not because he doesn't want you to know, but because knowing means risking everything. And for someone who's used to keeping control, that risk is terrifying. But if his actions are already leading you there, then deep down, he's already chosen you. Even if he hasn't said the words, even if he's still figuring it out. His heart knows, and sooner or later you will too. So here's what you need to understand. When a man has real feelings for you, he doesn't always announce it with grand gestures or a sweeping confession. Often he'll try to hide it to protect himself, to stay in control, but emotions don't hide well. They sneak out in the things he does, the way he shows up. the attention he pays, and the energy he brings into your life. If you pay close attention, you'll see that his feelings are already there, woven into his actions, scattered through his words, and written all over the way he looks at you when he thinks you're not watching. So don't chase the words, watch the behavior. That's where the truth lies, and when a man truly feels something for you, it always finds a way to show, even when he tries to hide it.